Hey, what's up, everyone? It's State of Soccer TV, and we're continuing the World Cup preview train. Today, we have a very special guest. His name is Shauyan, who is joining us to profile Iran. Shauyan, how's it going?
I'm doing great, man. Thank you so much for having me on, and I'm really excited to talk about the Iranian national team for everybody.
And I think everyone's really excited to hear about the Iranian national team because there's not a whole lot of information out there in English, I would say. And in fact, the funny thing is when I did the original World Cup preview video, I didn't know much about Iran, or about their national team. So I seemed to be underestimating them. And a lot of the comments I made in that video got a lot of backlash. And I even commented back, I'm bringing on an individual we're going to talk about the Iranian national team and make things right here. So with that, let's start and let's kind of gloss over the World Cup history because I was surprised that they've been in multiple World Cups. Is that right?
Yeah, they've been in 5. This is the first time they've ever gone 3 straight. And all in all, they haven't been necessarily on paper successful in any of these World Cups, but definitely the previous 2 ones were the eye-opening ones for the general public, the people that aren't Iranian, that don't know much about the Iranian national team. And what they also, the nickname for Iran is Team Melli, which translates to the real team. And so that's another name that they have for themselves. And yeah, the previous 2 World Cups were big for Iran, and especially 2018. That's where people were like, oh shit, like this Iranian national team is the real deal, almost topping the group that they were in with Spain, Morocco, and Portugal, which all 3 are very strong national teams. I mean, Spain won the 2010 World Cup. Portugal have Cristiano Ronaldo and won the 2016 Euros. And at that time, Morocco were African champions, by far the best team in Africa. And so Iran almost topped that group as the nobodies. But all in all, haven't really had any success in any World Cup. They only have 2 wins in World Cup history, one from your beloved United States in 1998 and against Morocco in 2018. And then outside of that, there's a very small amount of draws and then a lot of losses. And all in all, they're still kind of fairly a new-ish nation to the World Cup scene, but are really starting to make, I think, good strides forward.
Let's talk about real quick their performance in the most recent World Cup, because there's a lot of comments that said they were very much, at one point during the group stages, they looked like they were going to advance. And then it was a wonder strike that essentially ultimately eliminated them. Am I wrong?
A little bit. You're a little bit wrong in regards to actually it was Iran's own doing that they didn't get out of the group. Okay. Because so to break it down, I mean, this was probably the happiest and saddest moments of my life because I wasn't alive for the 1998 game. I really wish I was because the scenes, I remember I talk to my family a lot about it, and, you know, they don't watch a lot of soccer, football. And I remember when I speak to my grandma about it, she was like, yeah, I thought we won the whole thing based off of like how we celebrated in the streets of Tehran. That's where a lot of my family is, which is the capital. And same with my parents, you know, they still talk about that game and they don't even watch the sport like at all. It was just such a big moment for them. And in 2018, their opening game was against Morocco. And I was like, this is it. That had to be the game that Iran had to win. And there was a lot of chances. Iran played really well in that game and they just couldn't score. And then we were fortunate enough, Boudabou's own goal in the 90th minute with basically the last kick of the game gets Iran their second ever win. I was just running around my house. It was a great way to start this group. And then their second game, they go up against Spain. And for most of that game, it was park the bus, and I'm not ashamed by it. And then when Spain scored off of, it wasn't even a shot. It was, they cleared it and it went off Diego Costa's shin and in. And at that point, it was actually all Iran. Iran were making Spain look silly. And like one of the most iconic scenes of that game was Amir nutmegging PK and then getting that cross off to almost scoring. And then Iran scored a goal, but then VAR said no, it was offsides. Probably a pretty heartbreaking moment for me, but really good positive result. I mean, I never thought we would be the team testing Spain, you know, asking the questions. And so then that's where people are like, oh my God, this Iran team is the real deal. And a lot of people, and as an Iranian, I was very proud of that performance. Then going into the Portugal game, which was win, you're through, draw, you need other results to go your way, loss, you're out. And most of that game was fairly much Portugal. Iran were playing their game. They just knew they just needed one chance to keep it 0-0. You get that one goal, you're good to go because they're not going to concede. Quaresma scores an outside the foot banger, a well-renowned goal now. I mean, Quaresma outside the foot, so I can't name a better combo than those
that
two.
Must have been the comment that I received in the last video, was that outside the foot. And I can picture that goal right now.
Yeah, and that goal, I was mad, but I was like, how mad can I be? I mean, that was just a crazy good goal, and that just shows that that's the only way you can break down this Iran team. That was truly the only goal they conceded in that World Cup, where the team actually took the shot themselves. Then later on in the game, Cristiano Ronaldo draws a penalty. VAR says it is a PK. Then the story of Alireza Beiranvand, the questions people wanted to know who he was because he saved Cristiano Ronaldo's penalty. He was a kid that was homeless for most of his whole career, didn't become a professional really late on, and then had that magical moment. And a good story with him was he would camp outside of a lot of the training grounds in Iran just to get trials with teams. He was washing cars, doing all those side gigs, and then became a professional really late on in his career, saved Ronaldo's penalty. Iran then get a penalty right on the stroke of 90 minutes. They score it. Then it's all out attack. Okay, we can do this. We just need to get one more goal. The iconic Mehdi Taremi is one-on-one with the goalkeeper and puts it into the side netting, and that was the end of Iran's campaign. So they were very close to knocking out Portugal, and the Portuguese were on the edge of their seat. So that's the very in-depth of Iran's 2018 run.
Very concise, in-depth, but I'm very impressed by that. So, and that it paints like a vivid picture, and I can kind of see your pain across your face. Although you're recounting some glorious memories, at the same time, I can, well, let's talk about this team. Let's talk about now, 4 years later. There's quality out there still on the pitch. And let's talk about some of those players. Gloss over some of Iran's best players, where they play, and ultimately, who do you think are going to be the big factors in this 2022 edition of the World Cup?
So I think I'll gloss over these ones a little bit more because I think a lot of people know them, is Sardar Azmoun, who just recently signed for Bayer Leverkusen, was previously playing in Zenit. I mean, was by far for 2-3 years straight the best player in the Russian league. Does it say a lot? I guess to a certain degree, Iranians really wanted him to finally make that move to a big European team because he scored a lot of goals in the Champions Leagues against big teams like Atletico Madrid, Bayern Munich, Chelsea. And so people and he's like the Iranian star boy almost. He was one of our better players early on. Finally makes that move. He's starting to kick out. Just recently got his first goal, got a man of the match performance recently. Another one is Mehdi Taremi, who I just mentioned recently, plays for FC Porto, heads and toes, in my opinion, has been the best player in Liga NOS for the past 2 seasons. I mean, is now 30-plus goal and assist, goal contributions this season. I mean, had those similar numbers last season as well. I mean, he's killing it.
One of the more prolific goal scorers in that Group B, actually, if you really look at it. I mean, outside of a Harry Kane, it's probably him.
Yeah, I think I say it. A lot of people don't agree with me. I think he's a world-class striker. I think he's right now in that top 5 conversation for top 5 best strikers in Europe's top 5 leagues. But people say otherwise. And obviously, I'm going to be biased, but yeah, he's had a really good season. Alireza Jahanbakhsh, who's a right winger at Feyenoord, was previously at Brighton. A lot of people might know him for his bicycle kick against Chelsea. I don't know what's up with Iranians scoring bicycle kicks. It's just a thing, but he's now at Feyenoord. He's the captain of the team, and I think he's someone that's not spoken about a lot. I mean, he had a crazy, amazing year, and I think it was 2017-18 before that 2018 World Cup with AZ Alkmaar. That was the team he was at previously in the Eredivisie, where he had a golden boot season, most goals, second most assists, I think close to 28, 29 goals and assists combined that year for AZ, and that's when he makes that move to Brighton. Things just don't work out, but every time he played, I think he was amazing, and then now he's at Feyenoord, where now we're starting to see that old Alireza Jahanbakhsh again. So that's another player I'd say.
Okay.
How many more do you want me to name?
Let's talk about the manager. Let's talk about the manager. His experience. I saw that he coached a lot in Iran's domestic league prior to becoming the manager. And it kind of what are your thoughts on him?
Dragan Skocic. So that's the name. He's Croatian, and as you said, you're totally spot on. I love it. Yeah, he was previously coaching in Iran's domestic leagues. I mean, he was an okay coach. I mean, nothing insane, nothing special. And then Mark Wilmot was originally the heir to Carlos Queiroz after the Asian Cup run Iran had in his last stint. And everyone knows Carlos Queiroz. I mean, I think he is the best coach in Iranian footballing history. I mean, the guy's an absolute icon, and all Iranians love him so much. And Mark Wilmot takes the reign. He gets sacked because he started off so poorly. So Dragan Skocic comes in. The reason they hired him was because, Iran don't lose games in World Cup qualifying. In the second round, already lost 2 to Bahrain and Iraq. And so they had to basically win out the rest of their games to finish top, you know, be in cruise control, nothing to worry about come the final round of qualifying. And so they thought a safe bet would be Dragan Skocic. And I mean, his record does not miss in regards to, he only lost one game in his stint as the Iran national team manager. I think it's 14 wins, 1 draw, 1 loss. And he's a little bit up in the air right now, actually. He's someone that we like him on paper. People give him a lot of credit, but in regards to Iranians, we don't know exactly how to feel about him because we win games, but this team is so like joyful in the attack. I mean, I mentioned so many great offensive players. I think this is the best plethora of attacking options Iran has had in a really long time. And people are they're split. Like, obviously, for me anyway, he has to be our coach going into the 2022 World Cup. I mean, he got us there. I mean, you'd never sack a coach, hire someone new before World Cup. I think at minimum, he's going to get this World Cup. But Iranians are very split. They actually want Carlos Queiroz to come back.
Okay.
I think Skocic is a decent coach. I don't think Iran can realistically do any better. And I think he's done what he has to do. But I think he can do better with the squad, and his tactics can be better for sure.
You talked about the Iranian people's kind of their pride for the team, and obviously I see it through you and the way you're counting those like memories and reacting. And what would you say the streets will be like in Iran if they are to go for a run in this World Cup? And you know, what do the Iranians think of this team? I mean, do they live and breathe football? Like, you know, that's something I'm curious about.
Yeah, I think some of the top sports in Iran is soccer, football, and a lot of individual sports like taekwondo, wrestling, and those things. But yeah, Iranians, they love soccer. They love this sport. They love futsal. It's another sport that some of actually the national team players played prior to becoming just, you know, normal footballers. And so, yeah, I mean, I think that's the biggest thing for Iranians is they want to finally see this team make it out of the group stage. And I think Iranians, I mean, the streets will be absolutely going crazy, and especially that it's in Qatar as well. So it's a very close country, neighboring nation to Iran. So that's very big for them. We might see a lot of Iranians show up to this World Cup, not like they haven't in 2018 and 2014. They came out. So many Iranians went to those World Cups as well to support each player, all the players for each group stage game. But I think more specifically, the fact it's in Qatar, I think, geez, there's going to be a lot of Iranians. And if they finally do it, and I think they can, I think they're going to go absolutely crazy. And I think there's a very good connection with the players and the fans.
That's what I was going to ask. You know, it's always great when a national team has that chemistry with its fans. Do you think that this national team embodies what it means to be Iranian ultimately?
Oh, 1,000%. I think, I mean, these guys, I mean, each one of them are like brothers, I think, in my opinion. You know, each time any of them are at camp together, you see they're always having jokes with each other. I think there's a really good connection amongst the players. A little less so with Dragan Skocic. I don't think they're as tight with him. But in regards to the players, I mean, this is the best crop of Iranian players we've, I think, ever had as a team. I mean, obviously, we've had great players like Ali Karimi, Ali Dai, Mehdi Mahdakia. I mean, I mentioned Ali Dai. I mean, everyone knows who he is. I mean, held the record, for most international goals. But in regards to from front to back, this is the best team we ever had. And I think this chemistry, I mean, I think these players embody and know the pressure, but they can handle it, of what these fans are hoping for them in this World Cup. And you can see from how they post, how they are together, that they know what it means to put on the national team shirt.
Seems like the perfect storm with, you know, neighboring country hosting the World Cup. The players embody, you know, the fans' true passions, outside of the coach maybe. Let's talk about now Group B. I'm going to keep my mouth shut because obviously being a U.S. fan, I don't want to – this is all about Iran here. We're not talking about the U.S. They happen to be in the same group. If I have to interject, I'll interject. But I want to hear your actual thoughts on this Group B, run through England, the United States, and then the plausible matchups, you know, with a Wales, Ukraine, or Scotland.
Oh, man. I just recently came out with a video actually deep diving specifically. I'm doing it for all the CONCACAF nations in Iran. And some people thought my takes were a bit crazy, but the Iranians love what I had to say. Going into the England game, I mean, I've mentioned...
Out of curiosity, have you been getting a lot of interactions with Iranians jumping in? And very cool.
They love it. I mean, a lot of people write in Farsi. My Farsi isn't the best in regards to reading and writing. I speak it fluently, but I don't read and write often, so it gets a little bit foggy sometimes. But yeah, Iranians loving the content I've been pumping out. Hopefully, gonna do more.
I was actually going to ask you how to say subscribe to State of Soccer in Farsi, or just subscribe.
I don't even know. I don't think there is like a direct correlation. To subscribe.
Okay, well that's my plug. So make sure to hit the like button, subscribe. I wanted to say it in Farsi. Maybe I'll find it and put it up in this video in letter, in writing. But with that, let's get back to Group B.
So England, I mentioned that Iran has played against Portugal, Spain, and in 2014 played against Argentina. I use them as a good comparison for England. Out of those 4 nations, I think actually England's the easiest one out of the 4 so far. And I know this is like the best crop of England players. They made it to the Euro final. They made it to the World Cup semifinal. I get it. You guys are good. But in regards to Iran going up against England, I think they can get a draw in this game. And I'm pretty confident it's going to be one of the first games. England historically in World Cup group stages, Euro group stage games, they've bottled it. They have Gareth Southgate. They have Harry Maguire. It's up in the air. And I'm going to say Iran's going to get a draw opening game against England. I'm fairly confident that'll be one of the first upsets in the game.
Okay. That's 1 point. So 1 point for Iran so far.
And then I believe their second game is against the Euro playoff team. And I think it's going to be Wales because I don't know what's going to happen with Ukraine. I have a feeling that game will end up not happening. So I believe Wales will end up facing Scotland. And I think Scotland's inexperience and just the fact Wales have Gareth Bale. I'm just so in for it. When Gareth Bale plays for Wales, that man is arguably one of the best players in the world. And that is scary to see. Agreed. And I think Wales will most likely be the team that comes out of it. Only issue for them is they haven't been in a World Cup since 1958. It's been a long, long time. And I think experience is a big thing in this World Cup. And I am scared about Gareth Bale. That's going to be absolutely scary to see. But it's not like Iran haven't gone up against Messi, Diego Costa, Iniesta, Busquets, Cristiano Ronaldo. And that's what I'm saying. They've played against way better, more well-rounded nations, and they were able to hold them.
That's a great point. Is in 2018. I mean, how many players are returning on this Iran squad from 2018?
The main crop of players, the same group, and a handful from 2014 as well.
Really fascinating. The fact that they did play against Portugal and Spain in the last World Cup, it goes to show the experience is overwhelming compared to the likes of, we'll get there, a US, or even if it is a Scotland, a Ukraine, or a Wales.
Yeah,
that is
exactly. That's the main thing. That's the main thing I spoke about in my video was I think the inexperience for Wales, I know they have Gareth Bale, I think will hurt them a little bit. And the other thing is we mentioned early on in this video, it's in Qatar, and there's going to be a lack of time change for a lot of these players and teams because the camp, you're going to move like one week before the season ends. And some of the Iranian players play in the Qatari league. They play in the Middle East. And I mean, Qatar is very similar to Iran, same culture, climate, not same, but similar. Time difference. So that's going to be a little bit easier for the Iranians to adjust because they do it all the time when they go to international break. And so I think that's going to really help out the players in these games. And I think the game against Wales will be the game that they get their win in. I could see it being 1-0, very scrappy, but I think they'll have I'm sorry. I'm going to actually say they have a draw. I apologize. Okay. I'm gonna say they're gonna draw this.
Are you it all for 3 points against the US?
I am precisely. Yes.
Okay. All right. So a draw against Wales, and then how do you think the game against the US will play out?
That is the must win, and that is, I'm sorry for USA fans, the easiest game of the 3, and I think USA will. I don't know.
Out of curiosity, you think it's an easier game, an easier matchup than a Wales?
I think so, yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And it depends. I think USA's all their attention is just on the England game. Because I've been watching and doing a lot of research about, what are other people's opinions, pundits, media, and I very much go in depth about it. I mean, Alexi Laws was someone I spoke to, and it just seems like the only thing they care about and are worried about is just England. And I think USA will have their best game against England. I don't think they'll win. I don't think they'll lose. I'm thinking a tie. My theme seems to be tying.
Yeah.
But I think Iran will have the confidence. I'm kind of split with the Wales game. I think I'm going to go back to, I'm sorry again. They will win against Wales.
Yeah. Okay.
They're going to have 4 points. I think the USA will have 2 points going into the final game as well. I believe when England faces off against Wales, they will have that win. So England will most likely be fine going out top of this group. I think then when USA are pinned to only having 2 points, Iran will have 4. They can play more of their style. They can soak in that pressure, playing similarly to how Canada does. I mean, Iran's already done that against bigger nations. It's not really their tactics as much anymore, but they can revert back to it because they know it's ingrained in their minds. They've done it before in previous World Cups. And so I could see them winning this game similarly to the game in 98. I actually think it might be a carbon copy of it where Iran goes up probably 2-0. Maybe USA get one late, but it just ends 2-0. I think the World Cup experience is going to really hurt this USA team because I think they're going to blow a gasket in that game against England and then won't have the energy for this final game.
Additionally, a lot of I'm not trying to sound like a downer here too, as an American fan, but I'm being practical. The fact that Sergiño Dest just picked up an injury, McKennie's injured, Reina has been injured, Pulisic, obviously he's had a goal the past weekend, and this episode will age, so that'll be long forgotten by the point of the World Cup. But we still have 7 months, but still they're coming off of injuries. Are the majority of Iran's players, have they been healthy throughout this season, or are you having some injury problems as well?
Yeah, I think, knock on wood, they have so far kept fairly healthy.
I'm not trying to curse the Iranian players.
I think you are. I can smell it. I can see it through the camera. But so far, yeah, everyone has been, as I said, this is the best form individually. This is the thing is, people have been asking me, is this team better than 2018? Yes and no. In regards to yes, every single player that has played in the previous 2 World Cups are at the best they have ever been in their careers, in my opinion. It's just in regards to, if we had Carlos Queiroz, I could say Iran will comfortably get out of this group, but it's just the issue of Dragan Skocic. I think there's just that lesser element of a good coach. I think Dragan's a good coach, but not as good as Carlos Queiroz. But in regards to these players, and that's what really matters is the players. This team is at their best form and at the best it's been in its lifetime.
Wow. Okay. And now with the best form and the best they've been in their lifetime, the full prediction. Now they move past. They finished second behind England. I'm putting you on the spot here. They finished. I'm assuming based off your points, they'll finish second in the group. They'll advance out of Group B. And then obviously matchup to matchup, we're not sure. But how far realistically could you see this Iran team going? It's a crapshoot, but don't hold back.
Okay, I won't hold back. They will most likely either play, I have a feeling it will be like Senegal or Ecuador might. I don't know.
Senegal's tough.
Or or Netherlands. I think Iran can, honestly, I think Iran are built to play in knockout stage games. Like their system, how they play. And we've never seen it. That's the unfortunate part. And a lot of Iranians have spoken to me about it, and I've spoken to a lot of Iranians. It's like, I feel like if we get over this hump, Iran could have one magical game in the knockout rounds. And I think, and the Group A opponents, I think, are a lot weaker than who you could get out in all the other groups of the group stages. And I think, I have a feeling it might be the Netherlands. I think maybe Senegal might finish first, and I think might be the Netherlands. But even at the same time, I won't even count out Ecuador because they've been absolutely crazy. I mean, finished 4th in CONMEBOL qualifiers. That's mad. Yeah. That's crazy. And so I think Iran could make a quarterfinal run in this year's World Cup. That's I think they could be the dark horses in this year's competition. I think
if they get advanced at a group stage, it's realistic to say they could win a match and make it to the quarterfinals. I think that's realistic. Now, before we go, I want you to talk a little bit about Next Generation Football, what you do for any of the State of Soccer subscribers, and I'll put your links in the description below.
Well, first and foremost, I want to say thank you so much for having me on, because it has been absolutely super fun talking about Iran, and I hope this is some good info for everyone watching. And just remember, I'm obviously going to be a little bit biased, but I'm as nervous as USA, England, whoever the Euro playoff team nation will be, as those fans as well. And I obviously have to back my boys, and I would expect nothing less from any other national team fan. But Next Generation Football, if you love the MLS, you love CONCACAF football or Iranian football, that's what we discuss on my channel. Sometimes I bring guests on talking about it. So yeah, if you guys want to subscribe, just check me out on YouTube, Next Generation Football. Bam, you'll see this this face, and then just click subscribe. That's it.
Very cool. And I'm kind of curious. Now you're out in the Northwest, Pacific Northwest. Iranian, immigrants living in the United States. Where are they mostly located? Because I'm always so curious, is there a hotbed, or where are most of the fans going to be watching from during the World Cup?
California.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the big populace. I'd say there's a fair amount in Washington where I live as well. And then I'd say California is a big one. There's actually a decent-ish amount in Texas as well. Okay. The Iranians have migrated well to the U.S. now, more so than ever. And so I'd say California, L.A., a lot of Iranians. The diva Iranians are all in California. So,
is there a specific bar that you go and watch up in Washington, or is...
No, I just I sit at home and I watch it. That's the one time my mom or my dad will actually really want to watch the sport with me. Most of the time they're just like, turn it off. I don't want to listen to it. I don't want to hear it. It's the one time they're like, okay, we're in this, and they get really into it. So that's the one time I really watch it with family. That's
really cool. So yeah, that's definitely worthwhile. Well, Shauyan, I really enjoyed having you on today, talking about Iran football, soccer. And for anyone who was interested in this episode, who wants to hear more from Next Generation Football, make sure to hit the link in the description. Make sure to subscribe to State of Soccer TV. And next week, we actually have Canada coming on. JJD TV is coming on to discuss the Canadian national team as we move our way through all 32 teams prior to the start of this November's World Cup. With that, take care. I'll say go USMNT, and I'll talk to you guys soon.